Today we continue our migraine discussion. If you have migraines, you want to take migraine-specific therapies for all of your headaches. Dr. Brian Loftus joins us again with more answers during Migraine Month. And Dr. Loftus, I know that there are specific migraine therapies, and we're talking different migraine medications. What are we talking about?
So we're talking about mostly a group of drugs called triptans, and they came out about 20 years ago, and they allow you to take a pill, but there's also shots, nasal sprays, and come back and function normally in an hour or two.
That's perfect.
It's wonderful. It just worked for migraines. If the Imitrex shot had not come out in my residency, I don't know if I would have survived it. Okay, because that's, bad sleep, bad eating habits are kind of part of the residency experience.
Yes.
Besides those type of pills and shots, which work well for about 80 or 90%, we have a special kind of aspirin called Migralex that's actually over the counter that they can find at Amazon, if not their neighborhood drugstore. There's Cambia now, which is sort of a super Advil kind of drug that's
powder
available.
form.
It's a powder, and it works quickly.
Yes.
And it's FDA approved for migraine. Most of the older pills are just $2 or $3 a piece if you had to pay cash, so they're affordable. And the advantage of these drugs is they don't tend to lead to more migraines. So when you take a narcotic for your headache, a certain percentage of folks is going to take away their headache at that moment, but then encourage it to come back.
A lot of folks, I'm assuming what you're referring to is a lot of those over-the-counter medications, et cetera, migraine and those things that have the added caffeine to it. Are those good drugs to take?
So if you can limit Excedrin migraine to once a week or less, it is a fine drug.
Okay.
I still prefer the Migralex, which does not have the caffeine, which is aspirin plus magnesium compound. But as long as it's once a week or so, it's not a problem at all.
Because isn't caffeine a trigger for migraines?
It is. It's a double-edged sword. So there are those folks that if they don't get their Starbucks coffee each day, they get a migraine. If I realized that, I would have, bought in Starbucks on the early side.
Yes,
but
I think a lot of us would have.
They don't feel the same. They don't feel good without it. But if you get a headache, if you miss it, the key is to stop it completely and avoid caffeine.
Okay.
But for most people, caffeine is not a trigger, and having some caffeine does indeed does help treat their migraine. But if you start using it too often, then it can transition into this trigger.
Now, talk to me a little bit about Migralex. It's an aspirin that's coated with magnesium. How exactly does that work for migraine?
So aspirin is a good migraine drug. And if you had it IV like they have it in Europe, at least in some studies, it works even better. So the magnesium serves to help the aspirin gets transported from the gut into the bloodstream. So it's sort of like a super fast absorbed aspirin.
Nice.
It is nice. It's $2 a dose, developed by a doctor up in New York.
And Amazon is the easiest place?
Amazon.com, migralex.com is probably the easiest place to find it.
All right. And I can vouch for it. It works wonderfully. Let's get to some of our viewers' questions because we've got some of those. This person wants to know, could any of my medicines, such as birth control pills, be making my migraines worse?
They can be. So some women, the birth control pills can really step up the migraines during their cycle. They should ask their doctor about the low estrogen birth control pills that are actually designed for women with migraines. They are more expensive, but they definitely help avoid the menstrually related migraine if that's the only time that you have a migraine.
And you'll be able to tell that when you track on
If you track your headaches, then you can make hormones your trigger and keep track of that, and it makes nice reports for you.
All right. Am I a good candidate for prescription medications that prevent migraines? I guess that would be for somebody that is tracking it.
Right. So if your headaches, quite frankly, are bad enough that you think it's worth taking a pill a day, then absolutely. But from a practical standpoint, if you're, more than one a week on average, you probably are a candidate. Now, if you had one a week and a single sumatriptan took it away, great, then you wouldn't be. But if you have, even 2 really bad days a month that nothing works, then you would be. So there's some, individual choice as to when you decide to start a preventative. But basically it boils down to, do you want to take a pill every day to stop what's going on now?
Which works faster, the nasal spray, the powder, or the pill?
So the Imitrex shot, or sumatriptan generic now, is clearly the fastest, but it's $60 a dose, versus the 2 $2 pill. So is it, for half an hour, is it worth $58 to be a half an hour or an hour faster? Usually not, but if you're throwing up, you may be lying in bed.
You may opt for that.
You may opt for that, or if you have to get on stage and your headache is bad and you have a deadline that doesn't move, because the 5 o'clock news, I think, starts at 5 every day.
At 5 o'clock every single day.
And the shot might be worth it. And then the nasal sprays are faster, particularly the Zomig is a very fast nasal spray.
All right, Dr. Loftus, where can folks get in touch with you if they've got more questions?
Come and see me in my office in Bel Air. So Bel Air Neurology is the easiest way to find me.
All right, Dr. Loftus, thanks so much for taking the time to drive over to Beaumont and share with our viewers all of your knowledge. We appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.